repeat a little bit of the last time?
Okay.
The children are...
So the parents have filled out a RADQ, which is a reactive attachment disorder questionnaire. And now I've got the child laying across my lap in another room with mom and dad watching on a video camera, or actually on the TV, in the next room. And the parents are always shocked with the honesty that I get with the kids. And I attribute that to the fact that they're laying across my lap. Because when they do that, their defenses drop. And so they tend to be much more open and honest with me lying down than they would sitting up. So we go through the list. There's 30 questions there, and I just basically ask the kids, do you do this, yes or no? And they will go through and tell me yes or no, and most of them will have at least half of them. Some will have as many as 25. Well, very few get all of them. But so I will say to them, I said, do you know what we call these things? And they don't know. But we call these problems. And my question to them is, why do you have so many problems? Where did they come from? And the kids basically think it's because they're bad. And they will give me some version of, I'm bad, and that's why I have so many problems. And I will tell them no, that's not why you have these problems. And in fact, I know why you have these problems, and would you like to know? And every single child will tell me, yes, I want to know. I have yet to have a child tell me they don't want to know. Because these children all know that they're different from the other children, and they don't know why, and they don't like that they're different, and they wish they weren't different, but they feel helpless and they don't have the information to do it differently. So we go through the cycle of attachment, and I do this with them on my lap, and I'll have a little notepad, but I'm going to put it on a whiteboard so you can see it. And we're going to talk about babies. We talk about little itty bitty babies and when they're first born and their whole first year of life. And so I will tell them, this is called the cycle of needs. And I will tell the child, I will say, did you know that every single baby in the whole wide world, no matter where they were born, because I get children from all over the world, no matter where they're born, every single baby has the same needs. And I will get them to guess the needs. And we start out, of course, with the most basic. Every single baby must have food. And they're pretty good at guessing that one. That's pretty easy. So then I will say to them, well, where does this food come from? And they'll say, from their mommies. And I'll say, right. Next thing, what do you think they need next? And so we play a little game, and I'll start touching them. And they'll come up with all kinds of words before they say touch. But they will eventually get to touch, because that's the second thing. So I'll tell them, okay, when we've got this little baby, and this little baby is getting its food, it comes from mom. So mom is holding baby. So guess what? Every time that baby's getting food, he's also getting touch, because mom has to hold the baby, right? Right. Okay, awesome. So what else does that baby need? And then we do the blinking game, because the object is for the child to get eye contact. So babies need food, they need touch, they need eye contact, and I will ask them, do you know how far a little itty bitty baby can see? And they don't know. And the answer is between 8 and 12 inches. So I'll ask them, do you know how far 8 to 12 inches is? And they will say no. So I'll take my paper, I say this is 8 inches, this is 11.5 inches. This is about how far a baby can see clearly. So if mommy's holding the baby and feeding the baby, it's getting its food, its touch, and look at that. How far are those eyeballs away from each other? That baby can look right up into mom's eyes, because that's one of the things that a baby needs. So we've got the food, we've got the touch, we've got the eye contact every single time that baby eats. The next one, and I'll shake my legs for this so their whole body goes like this, and they think that's kind of funny. The next one is movement. And we talk about what mommies do when their babies start to cry. And they do this. They start bouncing the baby, or they go back and forth, or they start rocking. And I tell them, here in the United States, when you see baby furniture advertised, you will always see 3 items of furniture. You will see a bed, you will see a changing table, and you will see a rocking chair. Because babies get fed in the rocking chair because of the movement. Babies need food, touch, eye contact, movement. And then there's one last thing which I never make the kids try to guess, because I don't have a nifty little clue for that. So instead, I just tell them, I do give them the option to guess, but most of them don't. The baby needs to see mom smile and hear her voice. So we got food, touch, eye contact, movement, smile, and voice. Those are the 5 basic needs. And note that that happens every time that mommy feeds the baby. Mommy talks to the baby back and forth. They smile at each other. Every time the baby's fed, the baby's getting all of the needs met. So then we talk a little bit and we say, so let's say that we have a little itty bitty baby, and that little itty bitty baby is hungry. So what is that baby going to do to let mommy know it's hungry? It will
Cry.
Exactly. The baby will cry, because that's about all a baby can do. So the baby cries, and what does the mommy do?
Pick her up.
Yeah, pick the baby up and feed her. So we have the need, the baby cries to let mom know there's a need, and then we call this, we have a really big word for this, gratification. So I will ask the child, do you know what gratification is? And none of them do, because it's a really big word. So I'll tell them, when the baby has a need, it expresses the need, and then mommy comes and meets the need, the baby gets a really good feeling, and that feeling is gratification. So we have a need, a cry, and baby feels all better. So what happens 10 minutes later? Now the baby needs to be burped, right? So we have another need, so a cry and gratification. And 10 minutes after that, the diaper needs to be changed. And 10 minutes after that, they need a nap, and you get the picture. Day after day, week after week, month after month, through that whole first year of life, need, cry, mom comes and fixes it. Need, cry, mom comes and fixes it, over and over. So through that process, who does the baby learn to trust?
Mommy.
Mommy, of course, because mommy comes and makes everything better all the time. So baby learns to trust mommy. What does this baby learn about the world? Is the world a safe place or a dangerous place? A safe place, of course. Mommy has made sure that all the dangerous things have been removed. The world is safe. And what does this baby learn about him or herself? They learn that I'm special, because mommy will come at the drop of a hat as soon as that noise is made. So this baby is thinking, I must be the most important thing in her whole wide world. In the middle of the night, all I gotta do is make a peep, and there she appears. So we have the need, the cry, the gratification. The baby learns to trust mommy, the world is safe, and I'm special. So this is the way that cycle is supposed to go. So I will ask my kids, and I will say to them, is this the way it went for you? And to a child, they know this isn't the way it went for them. And the reason they know is because when I start listing these things here, that's not their reality. They don't trust, the world is not safe, and they think they're bad. So I will say to them, another time, way I'll say to them, I'll say, I know it didn't go this way, and they'll say, how do you know? And I'll say, because those people in the other room are not your birth parents. Birth parents will stay with their children. When I have a child that's not with their birth parent, I know something has happened. And usually it goes back to this cycle right here. So let's figure out how your cycle went, is what I will tell my children. And so we'll start at the beginning, and I'll say to them, when you were a baby, did you have those 5 basic needs? And it's absolutely amazing the number of children that will tell me, no, I didn't have those needs. Because these children don't think they're normal. They think there's something wrong with them. So they, of course, wouldn't have the same needs as someone whose circle went the right way. So I will remind them that way back in the beginning, I said every single baby in the whole wide world. And that includes them. So then they'll smile and they'll say, oh yes, I did. So we check that off, because yes, they had those 5 basic needs. That part went right. Did they cry when they were a little bitty baby? And of course they all nod, and some of them are still crying. So we know that that part worked. And then I will say, did your birth mommy come running whenever you had a need? And then they know this is where the problem happened. So this is where there was the break in the cycle. Now, on the rare occasion that I have a birth child, we talk about how your mommy tried. If we have a child that had a lot of medical pain when they were a baby, if we have a mom or a baby that was born under domestic violence situations, these kind of birth children can have attachment disorder. When I get in that situation, we modify this slightly to look at the particular situation, because a lot of times it's not, the mom can't meet that need because it's an internal need, like medical pain. A baby that's had a ton of earaches, and the mom can't address that need. The baby has a need and they cry and cry and cry and they don't get the gratification. Not that mom's not trying to solve the problem, but she can't meet the need because it's driven by something she has no control over. Same with in utero violence, the domestic violence, drug and alcohol, all that kind of stuff. One of the worst kids I ever worked with was adopted at birth. Awesome family, and yet he was one of the most violent kids I ever worked with. Well, it turns out that his biological mother had attempted an abortion. It failed, but this little boy came out into the world knowing that he was in danger, his life was in danger, he is not safe, and he came out fighting for survival. And he never gave up the fight. Well, he's now in a program, he's 18 years old now, but he's in a program through the correction department because he never resolved those inner feelings. So anyway, back to the story. So we know that this is where the break happens. So I will ask the child, I say, okay, so you were hungry, you cried, but nobody fed you. So what do you think you did? Make a guess. What do you
Stop
think?
crying.
No, they cry louder.
Oh, first louder.
At first they'll cry louder because they're thinking I must be doing this wrong. So if I just make more noise, they will come. Now, if you think back to little itty bitty babies, how do little itty bitty babies cry? Little itty bitty baby cry with their whole body. Their arms go, their legs will go, and they will scream and they turn that funny purple color. So how long can a little bitty baby do that?
15 minutes?
15 to 20 minutes is what the research says. And then what happens?
It shuts down. The system shuts
They
down.
fall asleep.
Yeah.
Right. So that sleep becomes the baby's sense of gratification, because when they're asleep, they're not hungry anymore. When they're asleep, they're not scared, they're not too cold, that diaper rash isn't burning their bottom anymore. The sleep becomes their sense of gratification. So who do they learn to trust? Who fixed their problem?
Themselves.
They did, exactly. So they learn to trust themselves. Okay, so the baby's asleep and it's feeling all better. It's solved its problem in its own mind. And then it wakes up and they're hungry again. And the cycle starts over. So this child, the children I work with, their circle goes around this way as opposed to going around this way, the way it was meant to be. So then we'll talk a little bit more, and I'll say to them, okay, so back when you were this little itty bitty baby and you were crying and crying and crying and crying, how do you think you were feeling?
Alone.
Mad, sad, happy, scared. Those are the four we work with.
Scared?
Scared. Scared because, why do you think they're scared?
Because they're alone?
I don't want to die.
I don't want to die.
It is my personal belief that even little itty bitty babies know that if they don't get food, they will die. I don't want to die. This is a scary world. I'm scared. Bad things can happen to me here. What else do you think they're feeling?
Angry too?
Mad.
Oh,
Angry.
mad.
Very angry. I didn't ask to be brought into this world. The very least you can do is bring me some food. Wouldn't you think? Yeah. So we got mad, we got scared, one more.
You have 5 emotions.
Mad, sad, happy, scared.
Mad, sad.
Sad. Sad because I'm all alone. Why doesn't anybody love me? Why aren't they taking care of me? What's wrong with me? So we have these little babies that are filled with mad, sad, and scared. And I'll ask the kids, I'll say to them, so if you had all this mad, sad, and scared when you were a little kid, what happened to it? And they'll go, I don't know, it got big. And I'll tell them, my personal belief again is that as their bodies got bigger, their mad, sad, and scared got bigger right along with it. So then we will go back up here and we will talk about little itty bitty baby hearts. Okay, little itty bitty babies are born with little itty bitty baby hearts. And when the circle goes around the right way, we have our little itty bitty baby heart, and mom and dad start pouring love into this little heart, and it kind of opens up like a flower. And by about 7 months old, that baby can give love back to mom and dad. So love goes in and love comes out, and in and out and in and out, when the circle goes the right way. When the circle goes the wrong way, what happens is that little bitty baby, the heart starts to open, and then all that mad, sad, and scared grabs onto that little baby heart and says, little bitty baby heart, don't be afraid, we're here. We will protect you, we will get you through this. And sure enough, it works. Because they survived whatever that environment was. Because all that mad, sad, and scared grabbed onto their heart to protect them and get them through the chaos, the nightmare, whatever the circumstances were. So then what happens is this wonderful family comes along and adopts this child, and the child goes into this home, and now all this love is being poured into this child, but guess what? None of it gets in, because the mad, sad, and scared is blocking it all from getting into that little baby's heart. So what we do, what we call the mad, sad, and scared, is the control monster. And I will ask the kids, I will say, so you know when you're doing your thing, you always think you're in control, right? Are you really in control? How does it work out for you when you're trying to be in control? Does it work out good or does it work out bad? And they will tell me it doesn't work out so well for them. They usually get in trouble when they're trying to control things. So I tell them that's our proof that your choices are not coming from your heart, because if they're coming from your heart, they work out well for you. Instead, they're coming from that control monster. And instead of you controlling everybody else, that control monster is controlling you. So then we talk about how are we going to get rid of the control monster. And at this point, I tell them, because I always ask my first question when I get a family sitting on in my office there is I will ask them, why'd your mom and dad bring you here? And they have all kinds of reasons, and they're very interesting, and some of them are rather humorous. But anyway, they have great reasons, but they never know the right reason. And so now I will tell them, this is why mom and dad brought you here, because I know about control monsters. And not only do I know about control monsters, but I know how to get rid of control monsters. However, I cannot get rid of your control monster. There is only one person in the whole world that can get rid of your control monster. Guess who that is? And of course, it's the child. And they figure that out. It has to be me. And I make an agreement with them. And I tell them, I am willing to work as hard to help you as you are willing to work yourself. If you want to work this hard, I will work this hard right alongside you. If you want to work this hard, I will work this hard right alongside you. If you want to work this hard to get rid of your control monster, I will work this hard with you. And I'm pretty sure mom and dad will do the same thing. We're all willing to work with you to help you, but we're not going to work harder on your life than you are. And I get them to agree on that. And so then we talk about how are we going to know when the control monster is gone? And the way we know when the control monster is gone is that the child is doing their 6 jobs, at least 80 to 90% of the time. And their 6 jobs are to be respectful, responsible, and fun to be around, and to do things fast and snappy right the first time, mom and dad's way. So they lay in my lap and memorize their 6 jobs. And they don't get to get out of my lap until they have them memorized. And then we talk about, okay, between now and the next time we visit, I want you to work on respect. And we keep it very simple. We work with eye contact. When I'm speaking to you, mom, my eyes are in mom's eyes. When she's speaking to me, my eyes are in mom's eyes. So whenever someone's speaking, that child's eyes are in whoever they're speaking to or hearing from. So there's eye contact, then there's yes, mom, and no, mom. And we are very specific. We use yes, mom, and yes, dad, not ma'am and sir. because there are millions and millions of ma'ams and sirs out in the world, but only one, and sometimes two or three, moms and dads. And so that is a title of honor, and that is the title we use. So we have eye contact, yes mom, yes dad, and then the old Nike commercial, just do it. When you're told to do something, you just do it. No arguing, no talk back, no whys, none of that stuff, you just do it. So those are the three jobs. Now, I need to fill in the rest of this because I didn't match this up. When the circle goes the wrong way, the child learns to trust themselves, and they learn that the world is dangerous because they could die. And in order to feel safe, a child will try to take control of the situation because that control makes them feel safe. The belief system a child develops, or that they can only trust themselves. The world is a dangerous place, so I have to be in control of everyone and everything in order to feel safe. And there is something inherently wrong with me that my birth mother didn't love and care for me the way she should have. So this becomes their belief system. And my kids recognize themselves as soon as I write it on the paper. So the healing process is moving from this belief system up to this belief system. And that's where therapy comes in. That's what our goal is. And once they're doing their 6 jobs, this is where they are. Any questions?
I have a question, yes.
Yes.
As you know, I have a biological child with Red. In my perception, I was there for her. I was there in the circle of needs. I was in a violent marriage, and after 6 months, I fled from after she was born. So it was a very stressful and dangerous time for us. What kind of consequences have that? I mean, she did have a father, although he was violent, but he left, which was a good thing, but he did leave her. Can you tell me something about that? When I was doing my best, I wasn't violent, I gave her everything she needed, although she was crying a lot.
I was in a very similar situation because I have a 17-year-old daughter that had attachment issues, and I was learning about this stuff when she was 2, 3, 4 years old. Yeah, because I was in a bad marriage. And what happens when you're in a bad marriage is the mom is building this baby in your tummy, but your cortisol level, because of the stress, is through the roof. That goes back to this too, when the baby falls asleep, when the baby shuts down. It's because we have an automatic shutoff system, because this crying is creating cortisol. Cortisol is neurotoxic, meaning when you have cortisol in your brain, it's destroying your brain cells. That's why you shut down, so that the cortisol doesn't keep eating your brain away. But when a mom has all the cortisol going through her system because of an unsafe environment, that baby is basically being built in a cortisol bath. So it has an impact on their development. Plus all the thoughts that you're having are being communicated to the baby. They did a study in France back in the 80s when all the neonatal equipment and where they could hook up the fetuses to the monitors and all this stuff. They did a study and they had a smoking mom, a mom that smoked. And so they hooked the baby all up to the distress monitors and everything, and they said to the mom, smoke a cigarette. So she smoked a cigarette, and the baby just maxed out every one of those distress monitors it was attached to. And so they said, okay, wait, calm down. They waited a few hours. They brought the mom back. They hooked the baby back up, and they said, Mom, I want you to think about smoking a cigarette. So mom sat there and thought about smoking a cigarette, and the baby maxed out every distress monitor it was connected to. There is a connection between the mom's thoughts and the baby's thoughts. So when mom is thinking, I'm not safe, baby's thinking, I'm not safe, because baby does not see a separation between mom and itself. So you're thinking, I'm not safe, baby's thinking, I'm not safe. Dangerous environment, needs not being met, scary, scary, scary. Baby is affected.
And how come that regular doctors, therapists don't know about this stuff?
Isn't that a wonderful, wonderful question? Well, I'll tell you, I got my master's degree in therapy. I had never even heard of this. And it wasn't until I was doing my internship. and I was working with kids, because that's what I do. And we got a call at the place where I worked, and there was a family that had adopted a sibling group of 3, and the case manager's calling and saying, if you can't get someone to this family right now, they're gonna dissolve the adoption, and their child's gonna be back in the system, and we have to do something. So this was when I was going through my divorce, and I had no money, and the child support hadn't started yet, and I needed the money, so I'm like, I'm on it, I will do it, 3 assessments, you betcha, because that was money. And it was in November, I remember it like it was yesterday. Well, what had happened was this 9-year-old girl had gone after her mom with a butcher knife and left over 400 stab marks between the bedroom and bathroom where she attacked her. Now, fortunately, mom was much more nimble than the child, so she was able to keep herself safe. It took 2 police officers, a can of mace, and sofa cushions to subdue this 9-year-old, cute as a button, little girl. Now, I will say, on top of attachment issues, she was also psychotic. So this poor little girl had had an awful, awful, awful life, and prior to her adoption, and she was living out her experiences. But this mom was my introduction to reactive attachment disorder. And she basically told me all about it, what she knew, and she educated me. So I did the assessment on the daughter, so I was there with mom for 3 hours, and then I went back later to do the 2 boys, so that was another 3 hours. And she basically told me that her goal was to get her child out to Colorado to do an intensive. And I was thinking, she asked me, Teresa, would you be willing to go? Because they had to take a hometown therapist with them. And my thought was, I really want to go skiing, because I love to ski, and I haven't been in years, and Colorado is the place to go. So I said, yeah, sure, I'd love to go. But as it turned out, and I was not going to work with the little girl, because the little girl was just a little bit more severe than I wanted to deal with, but I was going to work with the 2 little brothers, because I could handle them. And so I never got back into the home after the assessments, because the therapist that was going to work with the girl went in, she got violent, and the case was closed because it was too dangerous. That's what happens to parents with these kids. The community doesn't know, doesn't set up the support, and therefore, because it's too dangerous. So where does that leave our families? So we ended up closing the case. I didn't hear another word from the parents for a year. And then I came home from work one day, and there's a message on my phone, and it says, Teresa, would you like to go to Colorado with us? We got the funding from DCF to take our daughter. Would you like to go? We're leaving Saturday. I said, sure, because it was February, and there's snow in the mountains. So that is how I got started in attachment work. And then once I realized this was what I was supposed to be doing, I had to find someone to train me. And I went through a year-long training, 3 days, a 3-day weekend every month for a year. And that's how I learned about it. But the general public out there, even a lot of the practitioners, are not aware of it, because they read what is in the DSM, and that's not very helpful, and then they don't pursue it any farther than that. So there's a lot of therapists out there that will tell you that they're attachment therapists, but they don't know what they don't know, and they end up doing more damage than good.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I almost have half an hour, so first I want
Okay.
to see